Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Podcast, powered by First National. If you hear any noise in the background, it is because we are live at the Canadian Apartment Investment Conference, Aaron's and mine's favorite conference of the year. It would be our Super Bowl.
It's like Christmas. Or the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is a good idea.
Yeah. We have a returning guest, not operating under a different banner, still same process, but it is Tony Irwin, President and CEO, Rental Housing Canada. We would have given him a slightly different introduction last time, so we'll get into that, what he's done in terms of new structure, some new responsibilities. I guess it is a rebranding of sorts, but
it is.
Welcome back.
Well, and I'll do it. It's to save Tony. I'll do it to save Tony having to do it. Like when we first met, Tony was the President and CEO of FRPO, which he still is.
Right. Which is an Ontario-focused
Federation of Rental Providers of Ontario.
Yep.
Which represents owner and operators of apartment buildings.
Correct.
In the province.
Yeah.
And there was a federal version, but it was the reality was housing was not a federal matter, right? Housing was a provincial and or municipal matter, and so there was not much activism in the federal space. And this was like 6-7 years ago. You recognized the need that there probably is a transition and needs to be more a voice for apartment owners federally, and you slowly sort of became more associated with this CFAA at the time.
Yep.
And so maybe just talk through the journey of where you end up today.
Right. Thanks, guys, for having me. First of all, this is great. Christmas is a great way to put it. So many familiar faces. It really is the sort of all the leaders, all of the innovators in our industry are all here. So it's really great to be with you today. So the evolution federally was I want to just sort of politely kind of correct a little bit. I mean, CFA existed for 30 years, and it did advocate federally. The point is, though, that as the real sort of game, if you will, the real sort of arena was provincial and municipal for rental housing, whether it was building, whether it was landlord tenant board issues or equivalents in different provinces, their own rent tribunals. That's really where most of the attention was. Federal government obviously has been involved in housing for some time. Taxation, we all care about that. It's not always as easy to get people excited about that, but that's obviously important. CMHC. So CFAA did play in those spaces, but the reality is, as you pointed out, the landscape was changing, and it was changing dramatically. And so the Trudeau government obviously, I think, was pulled to the party. I don't think they were necessarily running towards it, but they were pulled in eventually when obviously it was like, read the room, fellas. We have a significant housing crisis. 7 years ago, I would get into very animated discussions with people trying to make the case that there was a supply crisis. Finally, everyone seemed to realize that that was true, including the Trudeau government. And so we saw a real sea change, a real change in the landscape around what was happening. All the financialization discussions, you guys know very well, all the attacks on REITs. So we had to up our game. And to me, it was very clear that while many groups are at the table, and many who I talk to regularly, whether it's Michael Brooks, whether it's Dave Wilkes, whether it's Richard Lyle, whether it's Kevin Lee, many great advocates who are at the table advocating for housing and certainly have, I think, increased their time talking about rental housing. They all do other things. They all have lots on their plate. And so my pitch at the time, then and since and now, is there is a huge need for a unified voice for a group for which purposeful rental housing development and supply operational issues is our business. It's not part of our business. It's not something we do as an add-on. It is our core business. And there was a need to take what we were doing and frankly elevate it to where it needs to be now. And that's what the last 2 years has been all about. It's been about sort of looking at what we had, taking the good, but then growing, expanding, making the changes needed to bring us to the place where we are now, which is the top tier association federally. You go to Ottawa now, people know who we are. You can talk to political staff, ministers, MPs. Rental Housing Canada, we've talked to those guys. That's what we've been doing, and that's what we've been, I think we've made a lot of progress, and that's where we are now.
Given that you were provincially focused prior, how much of the efforts last 2 years were, opening new lines of communication? Like, how difficult is that process, trying to really open up, federal attention?
So it's a great question. And when you've been doing this for your whole career, which is me, it's all.
Yeah, if you wanted to know Tony's history, you can go back and listen to one of the original episodes. So you've been a lobbyist your entire career.
Yeah, I won't bore people with all that now because it will just bring people to tears. But political staff, working for a premier, and then shifting into advocacy for different sectors. which are heavily regulated and often have issues with public perception. That's why people like me, where we play. And so the thing is, about your question, Adam, is interesting, is when you've been doing this for a long time, people move around to different levels of government. They shift. This week you see them working at Queen's Park. Next year they're working federally. So time has to be spent developing new relationships. But if you've been doing this for like the time that I've been, not to age myself, but you realize that you actually
45 years.
You know more people, thanks. You know more people than you think. And so yes, the time was spent having to develop new relationships, which is something that I do every day. And frankly, I like doing it. It's something that, yes, time needed to be spent doing it, but it's something that I think I'm pretty well suited to be doing, and it's come pretty naturally. Not to say it doesn't take work. Any relationship that's important, you have to cultivate it, nurture it. It's got to be a two-way street. But I think we've proven that we're good at doing that, and we've now developed lots of great relationships in political Ottawa.
The attention that the housing file is getting now at all levels of government, night and day compared to, call it 7 years ago.
Yes.
So when you show up forging some new relationships at federal level, how receptive are they to what you're saying? How well do they understand some of the challenges in our sector? I know that when you talk to developers who speak with municipal level politicians, there's varying degrees of kind of penetration of the message. What are you finding at the federal level now?
So a couple things on that. One of the things that's a challenge doing the work that I do is, of course, when there's so much change, new ministers, new staff, less so in the department. A lot of those officials obviously stay in their jobs for longer, but the political side is often a bit of a revolving door. So you have to spend a lot of time educating, re-educating, meeting new people, having those conversations. That's a big part of what we do, and that's at Queen's Park, and that's in Ottawa, and that's at Toronto City Hall, and any government seat of government anywhere across Canada. So that's one has certainly with the Carney government. There's been some time spent doing that. However, it is also true that there are many political staffers who are still in Ottawa that worked in the Trudeau government. So we now find people I knew that were working in one office are working in another. Policy director for Chrystia Freeland's now working in the PMO. There have been some of those kind of shifts, which is great because those are people that we know, that we've been working with over the last few years. They're not new to the file. They're in different positions, but still positions that are in our orbit, and we've been already working with them. So that's great. And then obviously you have to then supplement that with new staff that have come in and that we have to have these conversations with. I would say clearly, Prime Minister Carney, we know his background, we know his time at Brookfield. Build, baby, build is his expression, not mine, but I'm good with it. That's their lens. And so we have a government that's, I think, and a Prime Minister who gets it, who has experience in business and in our sector specifically. And we couldn't have a better scenario as far as that goes. So there certainly is seemingly a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. We understand that the government's got a lot on its plate right now, as we're listening to Ben Tal this morning, and all the issues that as Canadians we're all concerned about. But we keep saying, and I think there's acknowledgement that tariffs and Trump and everything that's going on, economic concerns, housing is a critical part of everything that has to be going on right now. And a government that can multitask and work on different things is critical. I think this government is showing they can do that. And I think they understand clearly that building more housing is absolutely essential to what's going on right now. So while we can't take our eye off the ball, the major projects office, infrastructure projects, all the things that we need to be working on, the tariffs and all of that, we can't lose sight of the need to continue to support more building of more housing and more purpose-built rental housing. And I think that's certainly what we're seeing.
Any updates on just Build Housing Canada? I mean, that was one of his sort of campaign platforms, but we've heard almost nothing from that government. And you just mentioned it; they're very, very busy. Obviously, all this stuff that happened with tariffs and sort of down south of the border have preoccupied them. But presumably, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is. So, Rental Housing Canada, we met with the housing minister, Gregor Robertson, in Toronto a few weeks ago. We had a great discussion with him. Had a roundtable with many members of our board and other members who were there, and we talked about a number of things. Obviously, during that conversation, Build Canada Homes came up. I think a lot of your listeners will know that there was a consultation document that went out. It had a very tight timeline for response. Many of us did collaborate, speak to one another, and provide responses into that. Getting information has been a bit of a challenge, I would say, in terms of finding out.
I'm not sure they know yet. To be fair,
I won't comment on that. But I will say that I think we're going to be hearing more about it soon in terms of rollout from government. I believe the Prime Minister spoke yesterday, and and alluded to the fact that news is coming soon on that.
Build Canada Homes. I guess it Build Housing Canada, but I haven't figured out the acronym yet. BCH, right? Is that
BCH?
Build
is
Canada Homes. Okay.
So, our view very clearly is, we've been saying, I think, and many know that for a number of years, whether it was CFA or Rental Housing Canada, we talk about the fact that government's role is to help those who do need help. We do, people talk about the need for deeply affordable housing. We do have need for that. And what happens is a lot of times people look to us and say, as market providers, that's your job. We say, and I still remember Sean Fraser saying last year at the CMHC conference in Ottawa, market builders do not build non-market housing. Absolutely agree with that. So we obviously are, many of our members are have partnerships where we build projects where government's involved, nonprofits are involved, community services are involved, and there are affordable units as part of those projects. We certainly do that and want to do more of that, but that's obviously just part of the solution. Government does need to help, in this area more. So, I think as far as that goes, this is a good thing because we do need more housing for, perhaps more vulnerable Canadians. The question is just about how it will be structured, how it will work, and I think our members' concern primarily is that we know how important CMHC is. We want to ensure that those programs continue to work well. Our issues with them that were being alluded to in the while calling Vocal speaking this morning are issues that we continue to talk to them about. CMHC is great, but it can be better, and we want to support them in being better. We don't want to see any unintended consequences with the creation of a new entity that in any way jeopardizes the programs that are desperately needed for our members through CMHC.
I have a lot of insight into just what's going on in CMHC. That's one of my roles at First National, and I can tell you, they don't know anything either. Like they truly have no visibility. They've been no announcements. There's no internal memo saying here's what BCH is going to do. Like it's still, which makes me believe they're still trying to figure it out. Right? They're still, and again, so I hope that we'll
get it right. Hopefully,
yeah.
Right?
Well,
yeah,
that's why my roles like yours are so important to make sure that we're constantly reminding them there is a way to do this, and there's a way not to do it, and let's make sure we stay on the right side of the tracks.
The last point I would like to quickly just make on that is that the message we deliver to government, whether it's PMO, finance, housing, Minister Robertson directly, is look, however this works, and Jennifer McKelvey, who I also met with recently, who's one of the Minister Robertson's parliamentary secretaries in housing, and I just said, look, just my advice for what it's worth. I would advocate for government not to become a builder themselves, not to be the ones actually building housing. Go to the people that do it well, that do it best, that have the best track record for building, and that's people like us, our members. And no one in government has pushed back on that. So certainly we've sort of thought about how could we be involved in this, given what the mandate seemingly is. And I'd say the best way we could be involved is partner with us, with our members, to get housing built. That's what we can do, and I would really encourage that.
To be honest, like the model exists, and I don't know if there's shortcomings, but the way that the First Nations model works out in BC, where it's basically like, here, I'm going to give you the land, I'm going to partner with you, we may or may not participate in the equity, but get some of the return, and you private developer, owner, operator, go and build and operate for 99 years, and that seems to work, right? And it's very hands off, and it's very sort of arm's length, and it's I think that kind of model, if they're intending to use federal lands to help provide some of this housing, like that's an easy way to do it. Sounds simple. I know there's probably more issues.
You solved it finally.
Right? Hallelujah. We can end this now and I'll go home. We're done.
There you go. Right? Why didn't no one ask me?
Problem solved.
No one asked. They just didn't ask. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you want to get a little granular on the items you are advocating for. When you do get that FaceTime, when you've got your relationships, what are the key things you're kind of arguing for to keep the industry going in terms of development?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. So, I mean, in our meeting with the minister, as I say, and others in government we've talked to, we just got through a pre-budget submission process. I think some might know that after the election, first it was the message was there'd be no budget this year. We haven't had a federal budget in well over a year. So I think some people were a bit head scratching over that. Like, how can we go this long without having a federal budget? It was not going to come until next year at the normal time, like March, April sort of time frame. But obviously government revisited that and said, no, we need to do something before that. So we expect next month to be whether they call it a budget or a fall economic statement. I don't know what they're going to call it, but it's like a budget. It seems like it's going to be a budget type document. And so we responded to that, as did many others, with what our sort of key priority items are, our key recommendations to government. So, on that list, and I'll just talk about a few of them, number one is development charges, and recognizing that we also were very mindful of what was in the Liberal government Liberal Party platform in the last election relative to us. You have to be aware of what they've talked about, and either provide some sort of comment into that one way or the other. So we all know development charges are kind of the issue of our time right now. And again, a couple of years ago, if I'd said something publicly about reducing development charges, I would have been very unpopular in certain circles. Not this group, but my municipal friends and so on. There was not a lot of uptake within government sectors to do much about that. We all know that's changed dramatically. Yesterday, I was in Brampton with Mayor Brown at an announcement. We worked with the city of Brampton on a DC bylaw that was passed yesterday by council that is looking to discount DCs by as much as 100%. The mayor, phoned me and asked if we would, at FERPO, I know that's the Ontario hat, but come and help them figure out what that could look like. So on our federal list, and because we know there's a lot of overlap here, DCs is number one. I'm saying that we know that the federal government it's not their jurisdiction to DCs are not in their jurisdiction, but clearly this is an issue that I think is of national importance. I know DCs aren't an issue everywhere, but they're an issue in Ontario.
Well, it's Toronto and Vancouver, right?
Right.
The two main.
So we're advocating for, in this case, a 2-year sort of 100%, deferral, or sorry, not deferral. Sorry, scratch that. A 100% DC discount for 2 years. The federal government proposed to half them for over 5 years. We're saying, look, there's different ways to do this. We're supportive of that. It's certainly better than not doing anything. We're saying, given the situation we're in now, given the moment that we think we need to meet, and the role we think personal rentals can play in meeting that moment, let's look at doing a 100% discount for 2 years. See what that can stimulate over a 2-year period. So that's number one. Recognizing the feds would have to work with provinces and municipalities to make that happen. But again, this needs to be an all-hands-on-deck approach.
It's almost like you need somebody that represents both the provincial and federal level for lobbying, for advocacy in the government.
That's great. I never thought of that. That's a great idea. And so that's certainly at the top of the list. We have other things. We're advocating for the HST exemption for rental to be extended to buildings that were already under construction before the date that the Prime Minister Trudeau announced that. So as you know, there were a lot of projects already in the ground back 2 years ago when this was announced. And at that time, there were a lot of voices, Adrian Roca, myself, others, who were saying we should really be extending this to projects that were already underway. Yes, we realized that members doing that looked at the pro forma, decided to take the risk and start building, but we said, look, a lot's changed since the time those projects started. We need to look at actually extending this this policy change reduction or discount waiver to them as well. So that's another one. A 1031 exchange, we think that's right. Again, if in both of these scenarios the tax would be reinvested into new rental, right? All this is about saying we need federal government to do things that will stimulate our members to reinvest in more rental housing. So let's do a 1031 exemption. Those proceeds are reinvested. Let's exempt HST from rentals that were already under construction when the announcement was made. Those proceeds get reinvested into new rental. It's all about getting more shovels in the ground, getting more rental housing built. We know that rents softening and vacancy rates going up in some markets make some people think that there's no problem anymore. But as we've heard this morning, there absolutely is a problem. Nothing's being built right now. What's being built now are projects that were in the pipeline for 4 or 5 years. Fast forward to 2026 or 2027, we're going to see no deliveries. No product's going to be delivered to market, and that's going to be a big problem. So what can we do now that will encourage our members to actually move forward with projects? So those are some key things we're talking about. We're hearing it. MERB obviously is on the list too, and we're very supportive of MERB. But I think the comments that I hear from some of my members is, CMHC's predicted we need $2 trillion to build all the housing we need. MERBs will help. It's a tool in the toolbox. But we need to be, sort of embracing, global direct investment, capital markets. Like we need to be attracting more capital into Canada to be able to build the housing we need. MERB will help, but obviously it's only one part.
Just explain what MERB is for the listeners, Tony.
Yeah, Aaron knows, but for those who don't.
So MERB existed back from 1974 to about 1981, 82, and it was a way to attract capital into housing, and specifically, I think it helped to build around 200,000 rental units during its first iteration. What it did is it was a tax vehicle that was attractive to doctors and lawyers who could invest in some of these projects. Some of the early costs were able to be deferred, and you were able to deduct some of the certain costs to do with the project against other non-real estate income. So it was obviously, there was a tax benefit and it was a way to stimulate investment. So win-win. People that did that had money, they were looking to invest in something. Housing was something that was desperately needed. There's a benefit to them doing that. It gets rental housing built. It's win-win. It just quietly went away in the early 1980s, and we've seen all the charts and graphs that show rental units being built, going up, and then starting to go down. And things like MERB going away, things like capital gains being introduced, those are things that contributed to the rental construction just going off a cliff. So bringing MERB back it will attract capital, although I would suggest that some of the lawyers and doctors who invested back in the 70s have other ways, other tax vehicles they can use now, but they will still attract capital 100%, but also being able to depreciate some of those costs and offset them against other non-real estate income. I have many members who have said we have a number of projects that are close to being able to go, for which MERB coming back will push them over the starting line to move
every
forward.
little bit helps, right? It's
Right.
a tool, as you indicated.
Right.
We're almost out of time, Tony, but
Sure.
let's just talk about the value of membership.
Yeah,
How do memberships going?
Rental Housing Canada, it's new, but it's not. It's been around for 30 years, but it has gone through an entire rebrand, new board, new structure. So now, my sort of I guess my pitch to people is, look, we need a strong, unified voice. We need an organization that is experienced, that has the deep understanding of how government works. This is not a quick wins, a short-term situation. You've got to be in this for the long haul. You've got to have the Constitution and have the wherewithal. Nothing happens. Government and quick don't go together, as you guys know. Yeah. So it's all about saying to people out there who maybe don't know about us that much, or have not been involved before, to say this is the place for you to come. We represent those who develop and operate purpose-built rental housing across Canada, all shapes, all sizes. Right? We represent them all, because I think there's a lot of commonality in the issues. Whether you have a couple units or whether you have thousands of units, a lot of issues are the same. And it's critical now more than ever that we have a strong, unified voice in Ottawa, and Rental Housing Canada is that voice. So I'd encourage anyone to give us a look. Check out our website, see what we're doing. We have a lot going on. We're introducing an event series. It'll be a virtual series where members can come on to virtual events with department officials from various departments within government agencies, can ask questions. Just another thing we're doing to connect members with government, so you can see for yourselves and you can talk to someone directly as part of our association and our membership about what's going on and impacts to your business. So please consider joining with us. We've built a lot of great momentum. We appreciate support from folks like you guys at First National, and we're just going to continue to go up and up.
Do you want a final comment just with FRPO, just because you've been now at it for a long time and been very successful, but maybe just how's FRPO doing? Yeah,
look, so FRPO continues to move along. We, the Ontario government continues to be very focused on building homes, building more the homes that we need. Minister Flack at AMO talked again about recommitting to the goals of building 1.5 million homes. Landlord Tenant Board is something that continues to improve. Attorney General Downey, I talk to him regularly. It's getting better. It's not where it needs to be. So we're continuing to push and to work with the Attorney General's office on ways we can streamline and make that process fair, more fair. It's really about fair access to justice. And on the development side, what can we do? Development charges are a hot topic at Queen's Park. So that's the thing. It's a hot topic everywhere. So we continue to have these conversations with the Ford government and with Minister Flack about how we can move forward on initiatives like development charge reform, for example, building code. There's a whole number of issues that we need to look at, and we continue to talk to them about how can we continue to move forward positively to ensure that we actually can not see a total shutdown of our sector. No one wants that. We need to keep people working, keep people building, keep housing people that are here now and people who are going to continue to come here. So never a dull moment at FRPO or are at RHC.
Sounds like you're busy.
Always busy.
Yeah.
Well, loving every minute of it.
Glad you're our advocate, Tony. We're out of time, unfortunately. I'd like to thank Real Estate Forum for hosting us here at the Canadian Department of Investment Conference. Thanks to First National for powering the podcast. And of course, Tony, thanks for coming back on. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.